Okay, smiles, 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 everybody. This is Marty Mongiello and Patty Freudenberg. Patty, how you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful, Marty. Thank you for asking, and I hope you had a wonderful weekend for Labor Day.
Yeah, and we've been worried about you up there. I know you're a bit blotchy and a lot of the telecommunications and stuff with the flooding and Hurricane Ida. So yeah, just worried a lot and called a bunch of New York friends. So you doing okay?
Well, I went upstate for an event at the Catskills, and along the Major Deegan, I stopped counting after like 20 cars just mangled up on the side of the road. I have not seen that in years, and it was a terrible flashback of Sandy, Superstorm
Oh
Sandy,
my gosh, yeah.
that we also suffered a lot. That nothing happened to my dwelling or anybody personal in my immediate family, but that was really
Yeah.
hard to see it because I was like right there. And again, being part of the Red Cross, we are hearing all the back end what's happening. People evacuated from their house and not being able to go back, and just really, really, really hard. I was doing some virtual work this time. They
Hmm.
they always need manpower, but yeah, we saw some devastation, unfortunately. Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was flashbacks for me too, because Stormy and I, we were over here in Charlotte sending trucks up every 2 days, and one of the trucks we loaded, literally those huge 15-foot tall racks of bread, 6, 7, 8, 9 racks. Each rack, I think, had 150 loaves, and all types of people pulling up last minute, running out of the car, bags of toiletries, cleaning gear, all types of stuff day after day, with the trucking company there in Charlotte sending the free trucks driving up north. And you think about how ridiculous that is, just a loaf of bread, but if you can hit 1,000 people with a loaf of bread, um, and clothing and every other thing you could think of. Well, let me just say today we have a wonderful guest, Shaltreece, coming in from the Midwest. So I'm going to go on ahead and get ready with the Goodbye I Love You show and bring Shaltreece on, and she's going to talk with us about her website, Your Gal Shal, and some of the tender and loving things that she is going through right now. It's just been amazing. I was almost going to choke up myself just talking with her to begin with. Well, we are back again, and Shaltreece, it is so nice to have you with us today, Shaltreece Chandler. And we're going to hear some amazing stories from her, what she's going through, and just watching. I mean, I start to get like, you know, teary eyed. Honest to God, that guy waving goodbye. You never know. Like at the door with a friend,
That's
if
right.
that could be the last time, you know. So, Shaltreece, tell us where you're coming from and a little bit about your town.
Hey, Marty, thanks so much for having me. Hello, Patty. It's great to see you again.
Hi, thanks for coming.
Absolutely. So, I am originally from St. Louis, Missouri, and that's where the majority of the origin of the things that I'm going to share with you today live. Presently, I live in Sterling Heights, Michigan, which is about 35 minutes outside of Detroit. And my website, yourgalshal.com, is really everything about me is about other people. And I won a race, I always like to say, a race to rock bottom back in 2012. And there's a series of events that happened, but what came out of that was something beautiful, and in a program that I have created called We Save 365, and it's about giving people their power back and helping them while I build a community of wealth one day, $1 at a time. So I help people, and in this regard, people who find it hard to save learn how to save. So definitely servant based by nature, and day to day, that's what I've dedicated my life outside of the project we're going to talk about to do.
Yeah, it's amazing to come to grips with having your own ministry. Yeah. And Patty, did you want to share how you actually met Shaltreece, because you brought Shaltreece to the show? So I think our viewers may be wondering, like, how did she appear, and how did you guys get to meet? Because it's a wonderful story in itself also.
Yes, well, I was inspired by her story of what inspired her to do this, what she just explained. And also she briefly shared on the John Project. So I would like her to let us know a little bit more about what inspired her to take this on, and also a little bit more about the John Project.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Shaltreece.
All right. Thank you so much, Marty. I feel like we just had a moment when you open the door and there's a gentleman at the door and you just got to Thank you. So I have a younger brother. I'm the eldest of three adult children. And my youngest brother, John, was diagnosed with advanced stage multiple sclerosis back in early, like January, February 2012. And the onset of even having to figure out what was wrong with him was he had a violent seizure that was so strong that he almost bit through his tongue. And so having been diagnosed with MS, he started with 8 lesions, and he had some support system there, but with my father having passed on and just the local family support network, slowly degrading for a variety of reasons. Up here in Michigan, we didn't have any idea how bad things had gotten. And so I got engaged within the last few years. He ended up having a bit of a psychotic break. And my husband and I traveled to St. Louis to actually shepherd the kids, his youngest 2 children, who are 8 and 9 now, to come and live with us. And that was when I truly began to discover the state of the cognitive impairment, as well as just the overall state of affairs. In that discovery, I started a project called the John Project. And the purpose of that project is to capture who he is as a man, as well as a brother, who he was in his profession, outside of for the children, who he is as their father. And so I spend a lot of time now in special moments or whenever I am with him, capturing and asking questions, which I catalog in a variety of places, and will put it all together to present to his children, our family, and the world one day.
And it's amazing, even things like this. We got a call from Massachusetts 2 weeks ago from a gentleman up there in Westfield at the university, and he said, I saw the whole YouTube episode and we're up here crying around the table about the black gentleman, that you've been researching for 9 years, the hero of the Battle of Kings Mountain where you live, Marty. And so he contacted me and said he wanted to talk with the family. And he said, they've been researching for about a year now at the university there. And so the power of YouTube has got people in Massachusetts crying. And they said they were like so broken up, they physically found it difficult medically to like continue. Because we recorded here at the Presidential Center like 2 hours worth, maybe, I don't know, an hour and a half of footage of the patriarch of the family. So the power of this vehicle to reach across continents and people who are looking this up and to study anything at all about John. And I mean, it is just amazing. And we talked about the archiving of the internet database of what you're doing today, and the Wayback Machine and the Internet Archive in California that owns all that. So some people just, all they've ever done is the Wayback Machine. They don't know anything about the Internet Archive and the backup projects in Luxor, Alexandria, for the full cataclysmic destruction of everything in California at the internet database, and also then the backup in the Netherlands. They don't really know about like what you're doing for posterity, for people who are studying your family in the year of 2600 or 2850, and they're going to be finding these things. Is really something. We've never really had access to this type of technology. This is very young, to be honest with you. It may be as little as like 8 years or younger, Shaltreece.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah, we're typically crawling all around, going through newspapers and stuff. And so then that's when I found out, just as a side note, that the newspapers are divided. So some newspapers I'm looking for, where there's a mention, it's available. This was an article published or something in the 1700s about my family. I find out that company owns those archives. And then there's another reference in 1807, and I find out that the other company owns those newspapers. There's not one company that owns all the newspapers going back to the 1500s when printing began. There's two. And if you want the premium subscription, it's about $50 per month for both of them. So, by the time you put that in, and let's say people are looking up the John Project hundreds of years from now, these are the difficulties they face, and then you also, maybe you have like the premium $80 membership to Ancestry.com. This stuff, it's not cheap to do, but I got a feeling YouTube's going to be around for a long time.
Yeah, agreed, definitely. And I also think about the medical implications. For example, right now, there's no known cause and there's no hereditary link for multiple sclerosis. And what if this medium that you're describing is used by my relatives, way down in that, ahead in that time, and there is a link that's discovered. And with this type of resource, they'd be able to go back and see who in the family might have been suffering from this horrible disease. If there's still yet, isn't a cure, they'll have that in this project.
Absolutely. And I know some people are against it religiously, but they're also doing that now with reverse analytics and cord blood. So depending on your church, some of it is forbidden, like in the Catholic Church is forbidden, to save the babies. But various different, people having children, it could be a grandchild. And, your granddaughter calls you on the phone and says, we're thinking about freezing a portion of the umbilical cord, Marty. They can actually go in and use the DNA from that to heal diseases. So through this reverse technology, medical technology, and again, I'll preface that with a warning that it is forbidden by some religions on earth. Okay. So I respect that and anyone's religious beliefs, but it's kind of like what you're saying, like, if they are going back and trying to build a database and they now have found a cure, for MS, then they're going to want to know like what family member names, and then they're going to follow down that tree, and they've linked it to it's only from the patriarchal side. So all the males, and then, gosh, what if in 15 years they do have a breakthrough and they say we can actually now fix any living male? Can you imagine if they said that? I mean, I watched it happen with cystic fibrosis. My wife and I did a dinner one night at the country club. It was about 324 people attended. We raised $567,000 that night at a dinner. It was the most amount of money they ever raised in history for cystic fibrosis. And people ask you, you know, like, well, Marty, what's going on in your family? Does somebody have it? Because you've never. I'm like, no, I don't even know anybody that has cystic fibrosis, bro. Well, why would you work for 16 straight hours for free then? I'm like, because it's something nice to do, bro. And then I'll take it a little bit further, Shaltreece, about what you're doing. You know, I want to take it two ways. Number one, I'm part of the largest genomic database on earth, 23andMe with Ann Wojcicki. I participate in a lot of their medical studies and their breakthroughs, okay? I know a lot about mutations within my own DNA. We all have mutations. I know now drugs to stay away from, like Plavix is not very effective with people that have my DNA. If they try to give me Plavix during an operation as a blood thinner, it's not really going to work very good. I learned this last week, that proton inhibitors for regurg are not very effective. And I always wondered to myself, why are they not really working? I took them for like so many years.
Yeah.
They don't work very well when you have the largest genomic database on earth. You know, you can start to figure this stuff out. You know, they have like, you know, oh, well, millions and millions of people with your exact DNA, Marty, and they all have regurg. It's not a fluke. Okay. Mm-hmm. So this is helpful not only to find medical solutions for the future, but I'll tell you the thing that really shocked me. This tiny little 92-pound Indian doctor came to stay here from Duke University. And she told me, the reason I stayed here, Martin, and booked the room for you, I am doctor doing cystic fibrosis research for 8 years. And we have had 2 medical breakthrough of medicines that have extended life beyond the year of 18-year-old. Into 70, 80, 90 years they can live now with cystic fibrosis. And I saw your auction of what you did with you raised $567,000 for this cooking food for people. And that's why I wanted to come and stay here, Martin. And I told my wife, I'm like, do you see, like, because a lot of people are like, you know, it's a bunch of malarkey and bullshit. You're not doing anything, you know. You're not. But I tell them, like, in the past 20 years alone, they have had 2 major breakthroughs of cystic fibrosis that have been mind-blowing. And these kids can now live a healthy and long life, and they are finding each other, both of them with cystic fibrosis, and they are getting married, and you know, so there is possible to have medical breakthroughs. And these are the things I'm working on. And I was wondering if you felt emotionally ready, if you could show us a picture of your brother. You had a beautiful picture you showed us.
I'd be honored to. One of many.
Well, please show us what you got, because
this is my brother John. He is 43 years old, and those eyes get me every time. And I spend time when we're together telling him, you know, why are you always giving me the sexy, right? Why are you always doing this? And it makes him smile. But one of the reasons why he doesn't smile a whole lot is because he needs a lot of dental work. And he's so, even though he's got that cognitive impairment, he's so conscious about the way that he looks and the way that he presents himself, and the things that are important to him now that weren't before. They're just really amazing. And so, you know, I would encourage anyone, even before there's a reason or some kind of thing that invokes or compels this, to get to know the people around you that you love and care about in a way beyond what your one-dimensional relationship is with them. And it's a beautiful thing. It's life-changing. It has impacted the relationship that I have with my own kids in that now I tell them things I don't want them to have to wonder about, even though I've always journaled. So this has multiple residual life benefits beyond what it's going to do for our family. locally.
Well, before we break for commercial, the main premise of this show is I'm going to kick it off. My dad called me this morning, Michael Mongiello. I want to imprint his name, Michael Charles Mongiello. He's doing good. They're COVID free, him and my mom. My mom fell out of the front porch coming out of the house, down the steps, face planted. My dad said, a couple months back, she's lucky she didn't bust and break the face and nose up. So I always say the main premise of this show is to tell people that you love them. And mom and dad, Michael and Mary and Mongiello, I love you. And to do it so that you're never there saying, like, I never took the time to tell him I loved him. And we had an argument, and thank God in your case, Shaltreece, you're not anywhere near any of this, but I've had people tell me, we didn't talk for 9 years. I mentioned my neighbor, Miss Morgan, she was screaming for her best friend, Ethel, next door. Ethel! The day she died, she was yelling for her. And the nurses and stuff, and people were freaked in and out of their mind. Now, they hadn't talked for like long time because they went on a car ride, evidently, and there was an auto accident. And, Miss Morgan was fine, but there may or may not have been some problems there where they ended up suing the driver, which was her best friend, Ethel. And so people will do that. And then there was a huge split in their friendship, and they never talked again for like 10 years. Ethel came over to the house and talked to her, and they made up, and Miss Morgan died that afternoon. That's my next door neighbor. So we're not anywhere even near anything close to that with this, but if you would like to, I'm more than happy to say, John, we love you so much. And we want to say goodbye before you're gone and make sure everybody knows that.
I love you, John Thomas Heron Sr., with every fiber of my being, for now and for always.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention Patty's product, Miss You Graham, really kicks in after.
Well,
so that's why I felt like Patty was a natural, for this show to be a sponsor, because her product is so amazing at Miss You Graham.
Well,
and
you know what, Marty? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
You know me. I'm like New York style. I'm always like eager to get in there. To this coming up in a few days is my mother-in-law's anniversary. So I want to say goodbye to her because she died suddenly. I'm gonna get teared up because it's coming up on the anniversary, and it's been over 30 years. I knew her since I was in high school. Before me and my husband were even dating, we were just friends. Me and Michael, good bestie friends. And I'm gonna show you her picture because I just happened to have. This is her. Her name is Connie. She was an amazing person. And I'm not just saying that she was my mother-in-law. She just really was an amazing person. That's why they say the good die young. But anyway, it is coming up on her anniversary. So I just want to take this moment to say goodbye to her because I had seen her one day and thought I was going to see her the next day. And she was gone.
Yeah.
Nobody's promised tomorrow. So I just want to say, goodbye, and I love you, and I'll see you later. Hopefully not for a long time, but yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. The more we focus on that, no one is promised tomorrow. And we kind of glossed over it and jumped over it before we go to commercial. But Shaltreece, didn't I actually attend your wedding on a Clubhouse?
You did.
Yeah.
August 2nd. It was a pleasure to have you. Yes, it was. We had it in our kitchen. COVID is still, has such a grip. And we had the ministers come. We had our wedding in our kitchen in this very room, actually about 3 feet away from the Idaho potatoes.
Wow.
So yes, yep, it was broadcast via Zoom, live via Zoom.
Yeah.
And
I think you set a record because that was like the first wedding ever broadcast on Clubhouse worldwide.
It was.
Yeah, which people have mentioned to me, and I don't own stock in Apple or anything, so I'm not plugged in Clubhouse, but people have mentioned to me, like, I need another app, like I need a hole in the head, Marty. I mean, are you honestly physically approaching me, mentioning something about me downloading? Chef Otto was saying that. He was like, me downloading one more app. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't mention it because I already want to slap myself in the face, okay? If it wasn't worth mentioning it to you. Do I mention to you to download a bunch of apps like once or twice a month? You've never heard me encourage you to download anything. So this is like the first time, Otto, in 30 years, and I'm going to highly recommend to you that you seriously take a look at Clubhouse. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because our group that we're in, Shaltreece, we're the largest creative group in the world. It's almost 10,000 members with Delano Johnson.
That's right.
And Monique. So, all right, guys, when we come back, we are going to move on to Shaltreece's website and take a look at what she's got going on there. Please don't go away. Hang out with us. Grab a soda, grab a coffee. Take 5.
Did you know that at least half of the world's population still does not have access to essential health services? One of the biggest problems in developing countries is the lack of medical monitoring devices. We have a solution. Kipuwex. Kipuwex is an easily attachable, lightweight IOMT device which continuously measures all the clinically relevant biomarkers vital to the assessment of your health. Kipuwex uses smart algorithms to provide efficiently reliable measurements for healthcare professionals. The biomarkers can be monitored remotely, anywhere and at any time, with a mobile and web application. Kipuwex is not limited by physical infrastructure and is suitable for professional use and in the future for home users as well. A simple user interface will let you choose which biomarkers you want to view and displays them on easy-to-read graphs. We here at Kipuwex want to combat healthcare inequality and help millions of people around the world.
Did you ever miss someone who has passed away? Now there's MissuGram app, giving people a brand new way to tribute the lives of deceased loved ones, or simply remember tender memories. This exclusive app is a user-friendly social media platform, giving people everywhere a respectable and comfortable place to create private or public memoriams. MissuGram has additional features like chat rooms and links to deceased databases and inspirational quotes. Users can also comment and connect on public posts. Join us and keep memories alive forever. Everyone wants to be remembered. For more details and download on the Google Play or Apple App Store, visit miss-u-gram.com.
Hey, Chef Outer here. Want to tell you about my Amazon best-selling memoir cookbook, A Chef is Born, chock full of recipes, also ranked the 77th book of all time out of 99, according to the Book Authority.
It's a good book, but I do a better chef than you.
Yeah.
Well, this episode is when screaming guests are lit on fire inside the White House. So I know that everyone's thinking, like, what did he just say? It's one thing to... Oh my gosh, and who knew in Abilene High School that we would be able to get a photograph from Julie Eisenhower. She sent this to us.
Join former White House chef Marti Mongiello as he brings to life colorful stories about America's presidents and first families that have occupied 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue Northwest. It's time to be informed and entertained with Inside the President's Cabinet. Visit the website today at www.insidethepresidentscabinet.com.
I'm Marti Mongiello from the United States Presidential Culinary Museum, and welcome to another episode of Inside the President's Cabinet. Well, thank you again to all of our sponsors, Morelli Tulakima, her global leadership site, and her show, of course, out of Australia. Also to Miss You Graham, who sponsors our show, and all the paying sponsors of Rick Francis from Carolina's commercial real estate. And let's not forget Kipuex out of Finland. They are doing a fantastic job also, and are on their way to Prague, but have been moving around with presentations at a number of European cities. Patty, any updates today on Miss You Graham and fun things happening?
Yes, well, I don't know about fun things, but you know what? For some reason, Buddy Holly's birthday is today, and today Delano Johnson's cousin Michael from The Wire, Keller, I believe that was his last name, passed away, and we're paying a tribute to him today on the House of Creativity. I don't want to get his name wrong, but yeah.
No, it's very nice. You do these all the time. If people see on Patty's Twitter and various other social media, she mentions different famous people that have passed away. Let's celebrate their life today. Sometimes it's even on their birthday, or on this day they did this, or so if you see those, thank you to Miss You Graham for helping us to remember them. And hang in there with Miss You Graham app. That's the slogan, right?
Yeah, well, everyone wants to be remembered because, it's not only like what they have accomplished, but it's also what they have passed on to us, right? And there's so much to be said about legacy, it's a beautiful thing. So that's where I came up with the slogan, because like even Shaltreece, I would love her to be able to share, if she's comfortable sharing, how she is, living and leaving a legacy all at the same time. And that's what it's really all about. So yeah,
and I couldn't help but notice Shaltreece also has some portions of her slogans. We're going to bring up her website now as promised, but in Miss You Graham, it's "You're Not Alone," and I would just like to run some of the slogans now down there. If you go to Shaltreece's website, you'll notice, it says you're not broken, you are not alone, you're an amazing, hardworking individual, and you deserve to have financial success. And a lot of that, Shaltreece, has come from taking care of your brother. And when these things happen to people, sometimes they may need to learn how to save again. And you have a lot of things for savers and the savers mindset on your website that you offer. Can you tell us a bit about that? And I'll bring up the website while you're talking.
Absolutely. So we had discussed briefly before the sort of the origin story. And interestingly enough, our family comes from construction. My father owned a construction company for over 25 years. And that's what both of my brothers, my two younger siblings, did. And in doing so, the practice for, at least for them, was to save, right, to earn as much in the peak season, which was around, spring through the end of August, early September. Don't get a lot of harsh winters in St. Louis. So, but it does get cold. So they would work in the peak season, save up money, and they would live off of what they earned during the peak season throughout the winter until the next spring, summer season came again. Well, when you are afflicted with a disease like multiple sclerosis that attacks your body in the way that it does, it's a slow degradation over time. So it starts with a trip, or a slip or dropping something out of your hand, and ends with, by the time it can no longer be ignored, with actual trips and falls where you're breaking bones. And when it gets to that point, as it has with my brother, he was no longer able to perform the work that was his livelihood. And,
it's a tough industry too, let me tell you.
Absolutely. Very, very physically taxing. So the point I'm approaching here is it's not just the physical aspects, but also the financial pieces that then those burdens still have to be, they have to be bared. And so my husband and I have taken on that, and we help him now with a fixed income, figure out how to allocate those resources in a way that allows him to live.
Sorry, I missed that. Could you say it again, please?
Yes, I love doing this, where we can yell out. Do we want to activate a bunch of devices today, Patty?
Not right now.
Because it's hilarious. If we just yell that out, it can activate 10, 15,000 homes around the world that are watching this show a year from now. Here, I'll do one right now. Okay, Google. Anybody else want to do one?
Well, you know what? It is great for emergency, though. We can laugh, but sometimes in an emergency, especially if you have fallen and you can't get up, just think about that. Hey, blah,
That's
blah,
right.
call so-and-so. I don't want to activate anybody right now, but you get my drift. So, and
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Shaltreece, but I heard something was activating in the background. Who's that lady that's on the Amazon tower? What's her name?
On the Amazon tower.
Some people have those little Amazon tower devices in their home, and they talk to her. And,
Alexa.
Oh, yeah. What's the call sign for that? Okay, Alexa.
Yeah, it's just Alexa. Just call her name.
Okay. So let's do it. Okay, Alexa. We've had people say, like, man, you activated my thing when you did that.
Oh, yes.
So,
that's a real thing.
Don't get aside. The commercials on TV have activated mine.
yes. So, but anyway, Shaltreece, continuing on, I notice you're also teaching kids how to save.
Absolutely. So I'm super passionate about helping youth and adults learn how to save. And I am a big supporter of the idea that pain and trauma affects our finances. And so how we introduce money. Just the concept of money with young people affects their relationship with money later on in life. So I feel it's almost like a responsibility to instill good practices. Both, I get a lot of parents that say, you know what, I'm fine with saving, but do you have anything for kids? And answering that call, We Save Kids, goes a long way, whether I'm, speaking in a school or teaching my niece and nephew or helping a parent instill the positive mindset, and as well as the skills and discipline in order to save. Now,
Absolutely.
With the young adults, if I may just mention one other big gap that we have in our country, in Michigan, at least, the highest rate of folks that drop out of college that end up in prison come from our foster care system here. And so another area that I'm super passionate about is when kids age out of the foster care system, there's a federal program that allows personal finance to be taught to those young people in order to help them, manage when they're dealing with all the other stressors in the world, especially when they've come out of, what are some horrible, horrible situations.
Sure.
That's another area that I'm passionate about. And then I coach adults.
And then, I just was showing folks how to sign up for the simple sheet here. Exercise number 1, how do you spend money today? And you just type in your email address and your name there, and you'll get the free PDF. Until you start to do some of these things and start to add up the numbers and where all your money is going, it can get quite daunting to try to figure out, what is happening. And so these little worksheets and stuff like you have there are actually pretty handy. Another one that you mentioned there was that you had been challenged to save, and you wanted people to know that they're not broken, they're not alone. And you got started in 2013. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and the situation you found yourself in, as much or as little as comfortable as you feel?
Absolutely. I think that the first step is just admitting where you are. And one of the things I share when I coach people is you have to keep it real to affect real change. So in that regard, I'm an open book. So the journey started in 2012, what I call the 5 months of what. And it began in August with the divorce. I had been with that person for 22 years. I had not been able to save successfully. And one data point that I left out, talking about my father and the legacy he left with his construction businesses, he came from the old school. He was from deep down in a farming town in Bolivar, Tennessee, and is still in an era where the woman had her place. So when I told my father in my mid-teens that I wanted to take over the business one day, he laughed. And he was like, that's a man's word. And with that, he invested his sweat equity into passing it on to the boys. So what I have shared with you about what he used to do, these are things that I found peeking over the fence around the way, and just through observation with my, around my father. So that very super saver nature that my father had, that I grew up surrounded around, was not infused in me or imprinted in how I lived my life. So I always struggled to save. So fast forward back to 2012, August, I endured a very challenging divorce. September, my home went into foreclosure. October, I kid you not, literally, my dog died. In November of that year, the little money that I did have, the liquidity, the cash that I had on hand, was wiped out in a scam that was going on in a very small local credit union I was in. And then in December, after 18 years of service, I was laid off due to a reduction in force initiative in my company. So that's why I say a race to the bottom. It really was in process for over 20 years, and just not having that financial stability caught up with me. Well,
yeah. It's about going through the bottom. Yeah, you're at the bottom of the barrel, and then you go through the entire bottom. I myself have many times shocked lots of people by telling them I have been a loser. I'm a bankrupt, also divorced. I was homeless, slept in a cargo van, the whole 9 yards. So totally understand what you're talking about. But yeah, please continue.
Yeah. Oh, and thank you for sharing that. And I love that you did it so openly and freely. We need to keep doing this. I definitely advocate to all that I speak with. It takes all the pressure off. It eliminates a whole layer of shame that we assign to ourselves in the first place, right? But a
whole layer of shame. Yeah,
yes.
People living inside of masks sometimes for 10 years. I had a Marine actually brought me out of the closet. He was talking at a fundraising dinner in Tennessee, in Nashville, about he was as close can get with the pistol in the mouth and everything. And he just decided he was not going to do it. He was not going to partake in taking himself out. And yeah, when Denny started playing this song on the guitar, which we have on our website about me, you know, it just, I was like, man, if this guy can put other people at ease, you know, like RuPaul did, you know, in front of Alec Baldwin when he said, it's not easy to live here for anybody. So stop with the games, the face masks, and because all that stuff's going to be all that falsified crap with lies. When we all meet up with each other, we're all going to be there like, so the whole time on that show in 2021, you were actually lying. You were broke and recording from a hotel room, you know, at a red carpet inn for $24 per night. You know, well, why did you feel like, well, now that we're here together with Christ, I was too weak and I felt like it was necessary to lie. And so, yeah, but please, it really is so easy to be me once I come out of the closet, and that brings me out. It's like, and I have helped so many people who were like completely shocked and prevented people from killing themselves. That called me and said, I'm thinking about capping myself in the grave. And I send them to my website. I've personally saved many, many people, probably at least 8 people from killing themselves. They're just so floored to see the level of disgrace and filth of my life. You know, they're like, well, you even put that you're a loser. I'm like, yeah, it's okay to be a loser. It's something I achieved. I was pretty dismayed about it, but it's one of my hallmarks that I was a loser. Yeah, it's okay. But why do you have that on the website? I'm like, because it was something I achieved, becoming a loser. I'm not a loser anymore, but it was something I did, bro. Okay, and they never knew me other than just as the White House chef, Shaltreece.
Yeah, and that's real life. That's life. What people see, and I, haven't aspired to do the things that you do. I think it's just fascinating, Patty as well. But that's what real life is, and part of the reason people get in these traps of not being financially sound is because their nucleus of what they attach their self-worth to are things, because they're not aware of the things that they have inside to offer. And so continuing with the journey, I decided at that point that I was never going to have that feeling again. And I think the most, as you've demonstrated in your own story that you just shared, is that the most basic human instinct is survival. There's another term that floats around all the time that's called grit, resiliency, however you want to label it. But I knew I wasn't going to feel that way anymore. Not if I could help it, and I could. So I made a promise to myself. Now I'm a single mother, right? So I have to do something different for my kids as well, that I was going to figure out how to break that cycle. And what I learned through the series of experiments that I went through, the intense self-introspection that I went through, I had to share with other people. And so my program, my initial program, We Save 365, was born. And literally, it is about building, at that time, wealth, personal wealth, but then expanded to a community of wealth, one day, $1 at a time. So saying that you're not broken, people like myself always wondered, like, how is it that I could have an MBA, how I could have, healthy children, successful career, these things, but I don't have 2 nickels barely to rub together. How is that possible? Why can't I do this? And
It is amazing. It is possible. I know attorneys who are broke. They have invested in things and trusted people and done stupid stuff, and people think, well, how could it have happened to them? My gosh, it's like, listen, man, I know billionaires who have lost children because they went in the medicine cabinet and took a whole bunch of daddy's drugs because they were upset over a fight they had last night, with their secret boyfriend at high school. Okay. So, and that guy is now doing testimonial speeches at, his name's David Siegel. He owns the largest timeshare resort in the history of the United States, Westgate Resorts. I'm not releasing private information. A lot of people know I fly to these people's homes, the 2% that are castles. I create Downton Abbey for them. I do special dinners on their yachts and airplanes, and I'm not releasing any private information about David. David lost, a lot of people have seen the movie made about the most expensive home ever built in United States history. Okay. Featuring David and his wife, or they stay at his timeshares, his resorts, Westgate Resort. David, was pretty busted up over the death of one of his daughters. He's quite a few kids. So it can happen to anybody. The day you stop believing that you are in Vincimax and Dentaris Maximus in Circus Maximus, and they can release the 3 Bengal tigers now because I have my twin swords drawn, you got to give it up, bro. You've got to give it up. You are not Dentaris Maximus. There are not 50,000 fans cheering in the stadium in Rome watching you.
Right.
You're not supremacists and all these other psychotic things of how you view yourself. The more we realize how pathetic we are, and honest to God, I focus on being pathetic. The only way out is it's not by being a personal friend of Michael Bloomberg. Okay. And Jeff Bezos and one of the original 10 that helped start Amazon. It's honestly through a bunch of peasants like us that decide we're going to chip in 10, 20 bucks. If Delano was to say, this is the project for this month, we don't need a whole bunch of questions. You don't need to call your financial planner. I want everybody, please, to just put 10 bucks in times 5,000 people that do it. I mean, all of a sudden, we just created a whole business for a person to launch. Right. And you don't need to check with your financial planner and your attorney and then get your CPA on the phone to have a luncheon tomorrow with all 4 of you to see about the investment for 10 bucks. It's asinine. Mm-hmm. It's 10 bucks. Who cares if Patty and I were laughing about this last month, weren't we, Patty?
Yeah. Yep. You got it.
We still get the credit from God for having donated the 10 bucks, even if we find out that it was a scam and a ripoff.
It was our intention. That's what matters.
That's right.
That's what the universe cares, right?
We're still getting the credit from God, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
and I want to tap on what you said about the loser thing, because I've felt severe shame in my life before. Shame for multiple reasons, which we're not going to get into because it's going to be off topic. But the point is, you can only go up from there. And something Brene Brown once said was, if you're not in the arena, I don't give a crap what, excuse my French, what you have to say about it. If you're not playing in the arena, I don't care what you have to say. So, again, thank you, Marty, for sharing. And I feel your emotion because I feel like the world has seen me naked. And guess what? We all look the same when we come out into this world. Right. We bleed the same, we look the same, and life throws us things, but nothing is worse than the ultimate, death So if you can avoid that, you're good.
Right. And Marty,
Absolutely.
you don't even know how many lives I just ponder how many lives you may have saved in Patty or me, just saying out loud your story that folks listening on the other end were like, oh my God, it's not just me.
It's not just me. Yeah, they see the gold and blue, wherever it is over here on the White House symbol of the badge I wear, and they see the 5,000 square foot mansion. But the long road to get there, the long broken road. Edison used to say this, like, no one wants to hear about all the years of thousands of experiments. They only want to know about the last one, when I was able to illuminate the human race with the filament, and it lit up, and the light bulb in the self-contained glass incandescent enclosure. That's all they want me to talk about on stage. But they don't actually want to hear about the 9 years and 1,200, 1,300 experiments again and again and again, within failure, collapse, denigration, and realizing how much of a loser you are. And we're now going to start experiments 900 through 1,100. Okay? They have no interest. All they want to hear about is all the glory of illuminating the human race and putting an end to the darkness. And we don't need candles. You don't have to go, when you go to the market, you're no longer going to need to stock up on your typical purchase of 40 to 60 candles. So it's people have to be reminded about the truth of history.
Right. And as it relates back to the origin story for We Save 365, what I discovered was that I was an emotional spender. And what that means is I never did, drugs, and, I didn't use my body as a way to cope. I spent my money and to cope with pain and trauma. So very painful things that happened to me, or things that I wanted to deflect or escape from, I would use it. For example, in the very challenging marriage that I was in, when I was body shamed or called names, whatever it may be, I would literally hold a party for my staff, because in my mind, if I could counter the pain that I was feeling by putting joy in the world, because I've always been a servant-based leader person, then I was going to be able to cancel out the pain that I was feeling, inside. And that distinction between doing something that you can versus what you can afford to, those were some hard lessons that I was learning through figuring out that I was an emotional spender. And once I discovered those things and I was honest about it, I was able to create tactics, which is what differentiates me from some of the other more popular approaches and folks out there, was that I created tactics to help people protect their wealth from themselves. Meaning when those impulses arose, that I had a barrier in place to get me through it. And that until I built the discipline to be strong enough to resist it, to be healed from it, whatever the it may be. And that is the main thing that I share with people, that you're not broken. You just haven't found out the right path, tactic, way in order to put those barriers in place until you get your superpowers to save too. And that's what I teach people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a distinct difference. And early warning radar is like super helpful to have, like, triggers that that will trigger you, and to come to grips with what those triggers are, so that you can actually start to begin to identify an alarm that goes off, whether it's the red flashing light or the whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Identifying those triggers where you're gonna go into binge spending and stuff is super important. So I call that early warning radar. That was taught to me in one particular counseling. But yeah, it's a great technique to help people. So, well, I think we're going to wrap up today, guys. Shaltreece, we're almost at an hour, 59 minutes, 32 seconds. It has been wonderful. As your journey goes forward with your loving brother, John, don't be afraid to contact us and say, I'd like to do an update on his legacy. What do you think, Patty? Is that a good idea?
I think that's a beautiful idea. And I just also want to add that it was Michael K. Williams was just who we wanted to pay tribute to today. And Shaltreece, we are keeping your brother in our hearts, and we just are, you're living his legacy. And thank you for sharing his beautiful story.
Thanks for having me, Marty and
Yep.
Patty. It means the world, and now I'm tearing up. So thank you so much for having this.
We got everybody. I think we even got Patty today. God bless you. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on the Presents Streaming Network.